Welcome to the Cook's No Mate. Today we're going to make chicken tikka. Now I'm talking about a chicken tikka that's as good if not better than restaurant quality. And as per usual, I'm going to show you the proper full-on method of how to make something that's absolutely delicious and full of depth and dimension. Okay, so to get the British Indian restaurant tikka flavour, there's only two ways to do it. Either you go and buy the Patak's pastes that the restaurants use, but they buy these big commercial type tubs, or you make it yourself. Now, to make it yourself does have one requirement. You have to get tamarind sauce or tamarind paste, or go to a local Bengali, Indian, Pakistani shop and see if they sell, and they should have some tamarind of some sort that you can use. But it's far easier just to use this, and this works. I know it's a big brand, it's by Maggi or Maggi, however you pronounce it, but it's very good. It's got that tamarind flavour, it's a little bit sweet, and it works is most important, and it's easy to find. You can get this in your local supermarkets. If you don't get this, or you don't get any real tamarind from an Indian grocery store, then making tikka paste for yourself is a waste of time. You're just making a curry paste, to be fair, and 90% of the tikka videos out there, this is what they tell you: put a bit of cumin and a little bit of garam masala, or whatever their particular combination is. You're not replicating chicken tikka as you get it in the restaurant doing that. You're just creating another curry paste that you're smearing all over your chicken. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but if you're trying to get the chicken tikka flavor, you're not going to just using the spices. It's not going to work. So if you can't get this, get the Patak's. There's only one small problem. I think this is easier to find than the Patak's. I know you're thinking, what? I've seen Patak's in the supermarkets, I can get them. No. What they make for you guys, or for us at home, isn't what they're using in the restaurants. The restaurants are genuine pastes. They're spices and all the things that are in there are blended with oil. It's a convenience for the restaurant. What they sell in the supermarkets more often than not is a pre-made sauce that's got the tomatoes in it and the garlic in it, and all we're supposed to do is just dump it straight into our pans and cook with it and finish it off. It's no different to buying a jar of home pride curry sauce or dolmio tomato sauce for Italian food. It's not the same thing. What you need are the pastes. They are different. There are some places that sell the pastes. None of the supermarkets do, and even then, it's a little misleading, because Patak's sell a tikka paste, and you think, well, that's the one I need. I'm going to buy that, and I'm going to make chicken tikka. It won't work, because it's not quite that tikka flavor that we're used to from the restaurants. The reason is the restaurants are using a combination of pastes. So the three most popular that restaurants use here in the UK is tikka paste, tandoori paste, Kashmiri paste, and it's a ratio between those three. Every restaurant has their own version. Then they still add other spices on top. You're still going to be making some sort of paste beyond the pastes. Here's my advice. Get this. With a lot of the ingredients that we already have at home and this, we're going to make a paste that's amazing, as good as the restaurants, if not better. Okay, so let's put our paste together. Now this will make about enough paste for about 1.5 to 2 kilos of chicken. So scale accordingly for your needs. First thing we need is a tablespoon of paprika. Let's get that. Running out of paprika. There we go. We need 1/2 tablespoon of smoked paprika. We need 1 tablespoon of coriander powder. Half a tablespoon of cumin powder. A teaspoon of hot chili powder. If it's not hot, then you're going to have to add a bit more, I would have thought. A 1/4 teaspoon of garam masala. 1/2 teaspoon of mustard powder. And we need 1/2 tablespoon of salt. Now what we want to do is mix these together. Let's get our fluids in there. We're going to need 2 tablespoons of the tamarind sauce. And we're going to need 2 tablespoons of oil. Use the best quality oil you have. And now mix. We've mixed it. We're just going to give it at least 10 minutes for those flavors to come together, because oil is a wonderful carrier of all the flavors, and it will just mix in with everything, and it will improve with time basically. But we've got a lot to do before we use it, so just leave it to one side. But at the very least, just leave it 10 minutes before you use it. Okay, so the next step is to prepare our marinade for our chicken. Take about 1 inch of ginger, and just using a teaspoon, scrape off the skin. Then take a bulb of garlic. And you want about an equal measure of garlic as you have ginger. It doesn't have to be exact, and if you're going to make a mistake, go slightly more garlicky than less. Peel them. Just like that. Okay, so with our garlic and ginger peeled, we want to get it into a blender. Now I use a NutriBullet type blender, but if you have a different type, it doesn't matter. Just get it on your highest, best speed, because we want to pulverize everything into a liquid, well, a thick liquid. So throw in our garlic and our ginger. We're also going to need yogurt. A thick one is best, a live one is best. I'm using a Greek style one here. I'm going to put about 3 or 4 heaped teaspoons of yogurt. There we go. Now we want to add our paste. Now the only thing I would say to be very careful is this stuff stains, so don't just put it back onto your board or whatever, it will stain. Get it straight into a sink. And the last thing we want to add is the juice of 1 lime or 1 lemon, freshly squeezed. Don't use those bottle things. Now what we want to do is get this blended up. Okay, so that's our marinade ready. And as you can see, it's got this orangey kind of hue. Now, if you want to make this look as close to how it does in the restaurants, then you have to add 1 more ingredient. I don't add it because it makes no difference to the taste, and I'm all about taste, and that would be food coloring. That is what the restaurants use. It's just red food coloring. Add a few drops of red food coloring, or if you have the powder, add some, like a teaspoon of the powder, and it will go bright red. Personally, like I said, I'm not about that, and I know this will taste as good as the restaurant, and that's all that we're interested in. So get your chicken breasts, the best quality chicken you can get. I would always advise. I've bought cheap, and it makes a difference. Too tough. Strange texture, I don't know why, but I won't be doing that again. just not worth it. I'm going to cut off and trim whatever bits you don't want or like. We're all funny about different things. Some people aren't funny about anything, they eat everything. But just clear your breast down how you like and then cut it into cubes or pieces basically. Do them any size you like, whatever suits you. So I've just cut up my chicken into cubes and now it's time to just cover it in the marinade. Now I do it this way around because I'd rather it's the marinade that's sitting around for 10 minutes, further enhancing its tastes and flavours rather than the cubed chicken while I'm making the marinade. So that's why I do it that way around, so that you understand. All we've got to do now is just cover the chicken in the marinade. And if you really do want to get every ounce out, don't add water, more oil. This is the kind of recipe that you can never actually put too much oil. Oil will always help. Unfortunately, we have that health balance thing that we're always working with. But if you're not worried about that, just add more oil. Alright, now let's get all this chicken coated. Every piece needs to be coated in this stuff. Now this is a very wet marinade. We want it soaking in this stuff. All we've got to do now is cover it in cling film or plastic wrap and get it in the fridge. The longer you let it marinate, the better it's going to be. It's that simple. If you must cook it today, leave it for a few hours, 2-3 hours. Best thing, overnight. With the marination now ready, whether you've left it for 2 hours, 5 hours, overnight, we can now move on to the next step. Now, a couple of things we need to prepare. Firstly, we need to get our heat source up and running. So whether you're going to barbecue this, which is great, it's the middle of winter here and it's raining, so I'm not going to do that. But whether it's to get your barbecue ready, nice red hot coals, or whether we're going to put it in the oven or the grill, we need to get that ready. For me today, I'm going to be using the grill, what we call the grill here in the UK. I think the Americans use a different term, broil maybe. Either way, it's the bright red ring thing at the top of your oven cavity, I guess. We're looking for a direct heat. The other thing you need to prepare is your skewers, if you wish to use them, that is. You can just get all your chicken pieces, put them in a big tray, put them under the grill and cook them that way. But they need to be turned, and that means lots of individual turning of pieces of chicken, which I don't want to do. So what I do is I'm going to use these wooden skewers. I've put them in water to soak for about 20-30 minutes as to protect them and they don't burn and we don't get smoke from the wood. And we're going to skewer up our chicken on this, and that way once I've got a bunch under the grill, when I want to turn them, it's a lot easier to pick up a whole stick of these to turn than it is turning all the little individual ones. So do that. But if you have metal ones, use those as well. Just don't burn yourself, and get the type with handles that don't transfer heat. So yeah, it's pretty simple what we're going to do for now. It's we're going to skewer up our chicken. You can do this any way you like. Personally, I don't like crowding the meat too much, so I won't put that many on each skewer. But you can put a lot more if you want and squish them together. I suppose there's no reason why that wouldn't also work. But I like to get some heat all around each cube, so I will spread them out a little bit. Plus I also know that the chicken, like all meat, once you've cooked it, it sets in a particular shape. So if you squash them, you're just going to get lots of tiny squashed up pieces, which I don't want. Now, the other thing that I do personally is there's a lot of marinade in here and it's good flavor, good taste. So I'll just scoop up some and just dab a little more over the chicken. I want this wet, I want this coating on there. It's full of flavor. So just scoop up some of the marinade with your fingers and just dab it over the top. Make each piece really wet. So once you've got all your skewers ready to go into your heat source, what you want to do is cook it to an internal temperature of about 76 degrees Celsius. Now I know my recommended temperature for chicken is closer to 80 degrees. But that's when you're cooking a whole bird, and that's a lot larger, and it takes a lot longer for heat to transfer through it. These are small, thin chicken pieces. Doesn't take time at all for heat to get through them. So if we were to take it out at 80, they will continue to cook for a little while longer, and their temperature will go much higher, and and the texture of the meat and the juiciness of the meat won't be where we want it. So if we take it out at 76 odd, the next few minutes will then slowly get up to 80. It will get the get the chicken where we want it, the juiciness and the texture that we're looking for. Because if we left it to 80, by the time we take it out, and it will be way over that, and we don't want that. So that's the reason for that. Now, it shouldn't take more than 12 minutes to cook this. I would say at the very least 9 to 10 minutes, but that all depends on a number of things. Firstly, how hot your coals are, or how hot your grill is. Now, my grill is set to its very highest setting, so that way I have an idea of how hot it is and how quickly it should take to cook this. But coals, they're a little bit more tricky. You want them to be hot. We're talking red hot. The second thing is that I don't know is the distance between the chicken and the heat source. So I'm going to put mine in the grill, but my grill cavity is quite large. Is the chicken at the bottom? Is it in the middle? Is it at the top? Well, I've got it as high as I can get it, but there's still a good 5 or 6 inches. Maybe in your oven grill you can get it an inch off the top. That makes a difference as well. And also with your coals, if the heat source is here, how high is the grill from? I mean, I wouldn't know in your particular setting, but we're balancing here. We're balancing getting the chicken cooked. We don't want any parts that are raw, but we don't want it to burn. We want it nicely charred. So for me, the only real thing I can say to you is keep an eye on it. It's one of these things you're going to have to keep looking at to get it right. The only other thing I'm going to mention is this. Say it does take 12 minutes to cook. I mean, I know for me it's going to take 12 minutes. What I do is I'll cook it, I'll put it in, leave it one side cooking for 7 minutes. And then I'll flip and have the remainder for 5 minutes. Now, I'm sure for many you've understood what the reason for that is, but to explain, this is going in cold. It's going to take a minute or so to bring the chicken up to a certain level of temperature, and then it's from that point that the cooking starts. But after 7 minutes on the top, the bottom side is already at that temperature because it's also been in the oven. It's not getting the direct heat that we want, so it's not going to have been charred and looking the way we want it to look, but it has been cooking. So that doesn't need as much time in the direct heat as the first side does. And there we have it, chicken tikka. The smell is divine. All we've got to do is taste it and see if it's as juicy as it should be. Let's give that a go. Wow. I'd hate to be one of those that whoops every time you cook something on YouTube, but this is really good, and I thoroughly recommend you guys try it. This isn't a tikka-like, a lot of the things that we cook at home, sometimes we do them very well, but we can tell it doesn't have that restaurant quality. That is not what this is. This is absolutely restaurant quality, and I'm talking about some of the finest Indian restaurants. It's that good in how it, in how it tastes, how tender, the tikka. It's incredible. Now, I personally don't eat my chicken tikka like this. This is how the starter would be served. What I'm going to do is when it's all cooked and finished and cooled down, I batch it up into 6-7 pieces and put them in little freezer bags, and I put them in the freezer because I use my chicken tikka in my curries. I don't like plain chicken. It's like when you go out and someone orders a chicken korma or a chicken bhuna, and it's those white cubes of chicken. And I don't like that. I always order chicken tikka bhuna or chicken tikka jalfrezi. And when I cook my curries here, this is what I do. I'm going to use this. And this also works on lamb, by the way. You use exactly the same paste. Get your lamb fillet, dice it up, coat it in this, cooked it in exactly the same way. The sweet spot happened to be 8 minutes and 5 minutes for me today, where I've got the right amount of char and the cooking and the chicken is just cooked, so its texture is just soft and buttery and absolutely juicy. Anyway, As always, thank you for watching.